What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Red Dead Redemption here on PC for the Steam Deck, and this is definitely a title I've been looking forward to. Played the original back on Xbox 360 and loved it, and have been waiting for it to come to PC in one form or another, even if it's not some kind of full remaster or remake. But I definitely want to take a look at the performance here on Steam Deck because it's actually really good. It's definitely a great way to be able to play through the game. So let's go ahead and get into it here now. Settings wise, we'll go through a few different settings, but just starting off here, 800p, no VSync on. High is the preset with native AA for the FSR3, and then motion blur turned off. And I didn't move any of the sliders during the video here. I used the presets, but you can definitely tick some of these up if you want to get some more detail, and it won't really hurt your performance too much here on the deck. Now, as far as performance of the game, I'm only in the first 3 hours in the first couple of town, village areas and stuff like that. And I've done a few missions, but performance has been pretty consistent for the different settings that I've tried. And this high preset with motion blur off and native AA seems to be pretty much the best way to go and looks pretty good and holds pretty good performance as we get into it as well. So let's go ahead and move out of here. I want to check out some more areas. So as you get into the original or the first town here, performance stays pretty good as you move across the open world. And of course, FPS will vary. You may want to lock things down to 30, 40, 45 FPS, but I want to leave things unlocked for the video so that we can just see what the performance is doing in these different areas and with the different settings. Now, this is that first Amarillo town that you come to, which isn't going to run quite as good as maybe the farm area, but it's awfully close, and it's really going to depend on what's happening. I'll show you a scene here in a little bit where performance really goes down a good bit and comes back up due to what's happening on screen. But let's take a look at a few different settings here. Moving over to the low preset, we're going to bounce up to about 74, 75 FPS here. So obviously there's a little bit to be gained by lowering the settings. Switching over to the medium preset, this is what I was talking about, where we came up from 52 FPS back to 61, 62, all because we had those hooligans coming through, shooting up the town, and that really just shows that depending on where you're at and really what's going on, which events can be quite random, is going to depend on what performance you really do get there. Going back to our high preset here, around our 58 to 60 FPS that we were getting, and then let's jump over to Ultra, which is 43 FPS. This may look the best, but it's only really going to be viable if you want to lock your frame rate to 30 FPS, as when you get into other areas of the game, it really does get it down into the 30s, but if you want a 30 FPS experience, you could go with Ultra. I'm going to stick with that high preset though, with motion blur off for me. Now, taking a look at performance FSR3, so instead of the native AA, we only jump up about 3 to 6 FPS over our native AA, and things get a bit flickery. Of course, we're upscaling and objects in the distance don't look that great. We'll switch over to FSR bounce, and it's similar, and we don't really gain much either. And matter of fact, we bounce down and up on our FPS because the game is more CPU bound here than anything, and with FSR quality, it's not that much better either here. So there's not a lot of difference to use FSR, at least in this area. In heavier GPU areas, maybe, but I think the game just looks better with native AA here, and no real need for using the upscaling at such a low resolution, at least in this game here on the Steam Deck, in my opinion. So native working good there. I'm still running my 4 gigs of VRAM on my Steam Deck, which I usually do, but I don't think it would make a real difference in this game with the 1 gigabyte or the 4. And as you get into, missions outside of that first city area and working with NPCs and getting into combat and stuff like that, in general, performance seemed really good, especially when you get out here and your GPU usage actually gets up there to that 98, 99%. That's when things really smooth out and you get good performance, because the CPU can breathe just a little bit in those moments and give you better performance. You never want a GPU or a CPU bottleneck. GPU is much better to be maxed out for smooth performance. So that's something to take into account there. But yeah, into combat with your NPCs and running around, staying busy here, performance is pretty solid as well. We do get hiccups in our frame times here and there, and locking this to 30, 40, 45 will solve some of that, but I like seeing what the game will do with the unlocked frame rate here. But all in all, I think combat feels fine. No issue with aiming with the controller, no stutters or performance issues that are so bad that it would prevent me from playing the game, at least in my first 3 hours here. And again, little hiccups and stutters from time to time. CPU bound usually in those areas, causing that more than anything. But all in all, nothing that's major. Seeing the game run this well is actually pretty nice on the Steam Deck. It's actually suffering in some areas on Windows, which maybe we'll see in some later videos, but Yeah, it's running really well here on SteamOS, and I'm really glad they finally brought this game over to PC, especially as someone who experienced it before. And if this is your first time playing or you're going back, I think this is a great new way to experience the game. It may not be some full remaster or remake, but they added a few things here, and the game's running really well, and they didn't just kind of throw it on there running rough or poor performance. It seems like a pretty good port over to the PC. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.